on Prime Crime.
Sheriff's office, who's inside? Watch our asses, John.
It's a scene that left officers shocked.
And saw that there was some legs on the ground, saw that there was blood. I saw that the guy was missing half his face.
A race to find a missing girl.
Any child comes up missing, it pisses me off.
My first thoughts were, it was like I was literally seeing a ghost.
And the evil behind it all.
There is no doubt in my mind that you are one of the most dangerous men to ever walk on this planet.
Hey everybody, I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome to Prime Crime. This is where we do a deeper dive into the most high-profile and memorable true crime cases. Several years ago, the nation was captivated by an unspeakable crime and kidnapping. And what would unfold, we're still trying to explain.
Sharon County 911, where is your husband? Somebody else is on Hello?
What you're hearing is the frantic call police received on October 15th, 2018. The call originated from the cell phone of Jayme Closs from Barron County, Wisconsin.
The Jayme Closs 911 call is absolutely chilling. You don't hear a whole lot of explanation. You hear some words, but you mainly hear the chaos that's going on.
Then there's quiet.
Hello?
Officers rush to the home of Denise, her husband James, and their 13-year-old daughter Jayme.
Open door. Somebody's down. Somebody's down.
Sheriff's office, who's inside? Watch our asses, John.
When authorities arrive just minutes after the 911 call, they find a gruesome sight.
We got a dead body in this one. We got a body in here too.
James and Jayme Closs are shot dead.
Dead body right at the front door. Heavy trauma to the face, gunshot, looks like a shotgun shell to the face. There's one shell, expended shell, next to the body. Found another one in the bathroom, almost directly straight back from the front door, in the bathtub, dead.
As for Jayme,
Door's been breached. We're missing somebody.
she's nowhere to be found.
We're still missing a gun? We're missing a lot.
A widespread search for the missing teenager ensues, with the FBI even offering a reward of $25,000 for information leading to Jayme's whereabouts.
There were search teams put together. There were thousands of tips rolling in. 95% of those tips end up being nothing. Canvassing, knocking on doors, they did not exhaust one means to try to find their answer.
We statistically know that every hour that passes in a situation like this where a child is abducted, the chance of finding them alive goes down. Two people who brutally murdered and she was taken from the house. I mean, there isn't higher stakes than that ever.
About a week later, as Jayme's parents are laid to rest, a startling development. Authorities are alerted to someone breaking into the Closs home. The burglar is apprehended and ID'd as 32-year-old Kyle Janky Annis.
In all reality, it was her underwear or something like that. Any child comes up missing, it pisses me off. And it makes me want to go hunt them.
Janky Annis turns out to not be the killer, just a common criminal who wanted to steal some things.
Turns out to be a massive red herring, but it drains very important resources and manpower at a time when you can't afford to be diverted from the intention of the investigation.
At the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, we were wondering the same thing. Is Jayme out there? Is she even alive? As the days went on, media attention, at least nationally, started to go down. We're strategizing behind the scenes, trying to figure out, what we could do. I had plans to go out to Wisconsin and see if we could bring more attention to Jayme's case.
Unfortunately for investigators in the Closs family, with each passing day, the outcome for Jayme is getting worse and worse.
Douglas County 911. Hi. I have a young lady at my house right now, and she says her name is Jayme Closs.
On January 10th, 2019, over 2 months after the killings, Jayme Closs is suddenly found alive in Gordon, Wisconsin, an hour away from Barron.
Okay, have you seen her photo, ma'am? Yes, it is her. I 100% think it is her. Okay.
For 88 days, I have stood before you and said we would work tirelessly to bring Jayme Closs home. Today, I can report we have done just that.
When we heard the news that Jayme was found, I can't even describe it to you what happened at the National Center. We were stunned. It was emotional. We were happy.
According to the caller, Kristen Kazinkas, her neighbor, Jeannie Nutter, found Closs. She gets on the phone and explains what happened.
So how did she come up upon your cabin? I was walking my dog, and we were almost home, and she was walking towards me, crying, saying, "You gotta help me, you gotta help me."
Jayme's ability to escape in this case is amazing to me. I mean, all too often, and unfortunately most of the time, we don't have a positive resolution like this. It's really through the resilience and the courage of the person who's escaped.
When I saw her, I knew she was in trouble because I knew wherever she came from, she left in a hurry, because she just had on a sweatshirt and leggings and shoes that were too big for her.
It's rare to have somebody found alive after 48 hours in missing person cases, because the trail dries up very quickly if you're not able to find something within that period of time. Time and distance works against police officers. So 88 days is incredibly remarkable.
My first thoughts were I basically went into shock. I mean, it was like I was literally seeing a ghost. I told Jayme when she was sitting on my couch yesterday, I just said, "I am so glad to see you."
Jayme was able to escape, but from who?
Jayme, do you know when he's going to come back? She thought he was going to come back home.
Who's going to come back?
Jake Thomas Patterson, a then 21-year-old ex-Marine. After Nutter identifies the suspect, Patterson's quickly located by police while in his car and immediately says, "I did it." But when he's thrown in the back of a cruiser, listen to the odd exchange between him and the officer.
You're no longer detained. You're under arrest now, okay?
For what?
Oh, they'll tell you when you get up to the officer.
Someone got to turn off my car?
Do
something with it?
The other officer will take care of it for you. It's going to be a little bit of a drive, so if you want to get comfy.
I don't think that's possible.
On some level, he's confused, he's in shock, even though he knew this probably would be the end of how it all turned out.
Soon after his arrest, Patterson not only admits to police that he kidnapped Jayme and murdered her parents, but he voluntarily provides additional dark details.
I think Jake Patterson almost immediately confessed, because he knew that if Jayme ever escaped, he was done for. I mean, there's no debate about what happened. There's no chance of him trying to explain this away.
We would learn he became infatuated with the 13-year-old after randomly seeing her getting on a school bus.
It seems to me like he had this thing of wanting to abduct someone, a child, and this presented the opportunity for it. Something clicked in him, and it flipped a switch, and that was the moment.
Through Patterson's admission, we got a clearer picture of what was happening on that 911 phone call.
By his own admission, I think he was only in that house for 4 minutes or so. So to carry out this entire thing that quickly, it tells me that he had an objective. He knew what he was doing. He had a purpose and a focus. He needed to kill the father first, because that's the biggest threat you're going to have.
He actually shot James through the window, point blank, before shooting the front door, kicking it down, and then trying to find where Jayme was. He ended up busting through into the bathroom and finding them both in the tub, with the mother trying to protect her at that point.
Investigators then realized that Patterson had slipped through their fingers. Let's go back to Deputy John Fick's dashcam. As he rushes to the Closs home on the night of the murders, notice the car on the left. That was Jake Patterson, driving with a stolen license, and Jayme tied up in the trunk, something officers even picked up on at the time.
That one car was heading out as we were coming,
Well,
but they yielded.
on camera.
Camera? Yep.
A car's going that way. That maroon car that yielded? Yeah, you're right. I had it at 54.
You know, we all want to say, you know, darn it, that he should have been caught. The police were that close. But remember, the police had just received a call from the house that an act of violence was taking place. So their main focus was on getting to that house as quick as they could. Patterson actually pulls off to the shoulder to let the police pass, which is what most people do. So he didn't do anything out of the ordinary.
I downloaded the video. I couldn't get anything. Like, the headlights were blocking it, and I don't even know if he even had a front license plate.
You know, it's just one of those real unfortunate things that they didn't have the manpower to dispatch someone to follow or get on that car and respond to the scene at the same time.
When we come back, we're going to get into the details of Jayme's captivity, and we hear from Patterson himself.
Mr. Patterson, not only were you a danger to the Closs family,
Then I shined it again and saw that there was some legs on the ground, saw that there was blood, opened the door, and said that I saw that the guy was missing half his face.
Back on January 10, 2019, 13-year-old Jayme Closs stunned the world by miraculously escaping the home of Jake Patterson, the man who had murdered her parents in cold blood and held her hostage for months. Now, Patterson immediately confessed, and we would then gain greater insight into the kidnapping and his mind. What exactly happened, though, during Jayme's 88 days of imprisonment? According to Patterson, he kept the girl locked in his cabin, at times forcing her under his bed for hours with no food, water, or bathroom breaks. They would play board games, watch TV, and would even sleep in the same bed.
Friends of his have said during that time frame they noticed an uptick in his personality, that he was friendly and he seemed to be happier. So I think in his warped mind, he was forming a life together with Jayme, and they were going to, I don't know, maybe live happily ever after.
In this particular case, it was about power and control combined. Knowing that he had somebody who was young and immature that he could have power over, and she could do whatever he wants her to do.
Patterson, though, never thought Jayme would actually try to escape.
You know, obviously Jayme is under this tremendous fear, and he's using that fear in the beginning to keep her captive. He doesn't have to do much to make her more fearful of him because of what she witnessed at her own house that night.
I think for her, she just kept it together every day. She didn't know when she was going to get out, or if she ever was going to. It must have taken everything inside her to just take that moment and run. I can't even say enough about how brave and courageous she was that day.
Patterson claims, though, despite his obsession with Jayme, he never sexually assaulted her.
It was never about the sexuality of it. I think it was about the companionship and having somebody that he can hold accountable to him.
Since the district attorney in that area decided not to prosecute any charges that related to behavior of those 88 days, they decided not to put Jayme through any kind of investigation. So we really won't ever really know what happened during those 88 days in full detail.
Patterson's charged with intentional homicide, kidnapping, and armed burglary. As he sat in jail awaiting trial, he stuns the public by writing a letter to a local reporter, once again providing more answers into what he was thinking.
The cops say I planned this thoroughly and that I said that. They're really good at twisting your words around, put them in different spots, straight up lie. Little mad about that. Trying to cover up their mistakes, I guess. This was mostly on impulse. I don't think like a serial killer.
I think Patterson writing the letter to the local reporter was his way of letting the public know what was happening in his head. It was an atrocious act. Now it's his time to say, you know what? Yeah, I did this, but for the reason is because of these issues that he has.
When asked what was going through his mind when he started perpetrating the crime, Patterson said he was angry and didn't want to do it, but the reason I did this is complicated.
Patterson ends up not fighting the charges.
How do you plead to that charge?
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
I think that he knew he couldn't beat the charges and he wanted it over as soon as possible. In his warped mind, again, he did voice some concern about not wanting to put Jayme through a trial. He put her through so much, right? The horrific things that he did to her. And now he has some kind of feigned concern. You know, I'm not a psychologist, but I think that, you know, some of that might have been genuine.
At Patterson's sentencing, it became a question of whether or not this man could ever get a chance at parole. We would hear powerful victim impact statements, but in one of the most dramatic moments, a family attorney reads a statement from Jayme Closs.
I don't want to even see my home or my stuff because of the memory of that night. My parents and my home were the most important things in my life. He took them away from me in a way that will always leave me with a horrifying memory. But there are some things that Jake Patterson can never take from me. He can't take my freedom. He thought that he could own me, but he was wrong. I was smarter. I watched his routine and I took back my freedom. I will always have my freedom and he will not.
Her family members now who are helping raise her gave her the strength to say that she will not let this influence the way she lives the rest of her life, that she will be happy going forward and that he's going to be in her rearview mirror. So I think it's extremely powerful.
You know, the fact that he tried to take things from her, and he did take things from her, but he couldn't take away who she was. I saw it as a very remarkable young woman.
Then Patterson has some final words himself.
I would do, like, absolutely anything to take back what I did, you know. I would die. I would do absolutely anything to bring them back, you know. I don't care about me, I'm just so sorry. That's all.
I think Patterson apologizing and crying and tearing up was, again, another manipulation. Whether or not he felt terrible about it, he said he wanted to go back in time and he wished he didn't kill her parents and he wished he wasn't in that situation. Well, of course not. He's going to jail for the rest of his life.
Then it's Judge James Babler's turn, and he doesn't hold anything back.
Your actions and the ideas that you had are not normal. They are shockingly not normal. I have no idea what rehabilitation could be provided for you. No one suggested any rehabilitation because even from your own side, the doctors can't find anything wrong with you.
For a judge to use the harsh language that he did, you know, clearly indicates he was horrified by the events that took place in that house that night and subsequent to that night.
And these crimes rank as the most heinous and dangerous that I have seen either here or anywhere else in the state of Wisconsin, and perhaps the United States.
At one point, Judge Babler read aloud the words of Patterson, but the defendant wasn't happy.
She was the first girl I saw once I had those ideas in my head. Mr. Patterson, not only were you a danger to the Closs family,
And that was his way of exerting his last morsel of power in that setting in order to show the public that, again, he is in charge.
there is no doubt in my mind that you are one of the most dangerous men to ever walk on this planet.
Babler sentenced Patterson to 2 life terms without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 40 years.
Today was a very important step in the process of helping Jayme to move forward. We are satisfied with the outcome and believe that it will give Jayme some much-needed peace of mind.
As Jake Patterson spends the rest of his life behind bars wrestling with the decisions he made, he may also have to wrestle to save his life. In video obtained from the New Mexico Corrections Department, Patterson's seen getting into a physical altercation with another inmate after he reportedly was harassed for the crimes he committed against a minor.
It's typical when an offender abuses children. There's some kind of jailhouse code that if they get in contact with somebody who is incarcerated for those things, they're going to make it known that it's unacceptable. And a lot of times those people end up dead.
As for Jayme, her aunt and guardian Jennifer Smith says she's doing good, surrounded by loved ones, and is taking life day by day.
Jayme will very likely have more to say in the future, but we are grateful for you allowing her to do that on her own terms.
I've been involved in a couple of recoveries of this type in my career, and I think that in this case, the possibility of Jayme moving on with her life is strong. She has proved herself to be a very courageous, very remarkable, and very resilient young lady.
I just want people to remember that there are thousands of missing children out there. It's up to us to make sure we're aware of the missing children in our community, because we could be that person to help bring that child home.
At the time of this taping, we just passed the 2-year anniversary from when Jayme was found. And as we look back, it's still hard to make sense of why all this happened to her, and maybe it'll never make sense. But Jayme's aunt released a statement on the 2-year mark, encouraging everyone to never take life for granted, and that, quote, "You never know what tomorrow will bring. Always remember to take the time to tell your loved ones you love them." And maybe we just leave it at that. That's all we have for you on Prime Crime. Leave us your comments on Instagram and Twitter with the hashtag PrimeCrime. As always, thank you for joining us, and until next time, be safe.